Welcome to Sip Sip Hooray, the podcast. I'm Mary Babbitt.
And I'm Mary Orland, and you've come to the place where wine is always fun.
You sure did. Our goal on Sip Sip Hooray is to make wine accessible, to make it interesting, and of course, to make it fun.
We just want to inspire you to try something different, get out of your Chardonnay and Cabernet rut.
I get in those. Also, we want to introduce you to great people that we have met along the way in the wine world and show you great places to go and interesting things to do. Speaking of, on today's show, we're going to take you on a little field trip.
We're heading out to Livermore Valley. It's east of San Jose, and it's one of California's oldest wine regions. You may know the names Wente, Concannon, right? Well, you need to know Page Mill Winery, too. So we're going to introduce you to our good friend, Dane Stark.
How you doing? Hello. Good. Welcome to Page Mill.
Thank you. Do you want to do a tasting while you're here?
All right, we are excited to introduce you to an old friend of ours, Dane Stark and Page Mill Winery. Dane was one of the very first people we featured on In Wine Country so many years ago. And back then, Dane was living in the Silicon Valley city of Palo Alto, and he was making wine in his family's basement on Page Mill Road, a garagiste. So then Dane moved across the San Francisco Bay Area to Livermore, and since our first interview all those years ago, Dane has gotten married, had 3 daughters, and opened his own Page Mill Winery on South Livermore Avenue in Livermore. As you can tell, Dane wears a lot of hats. He's a father, he's a husband, he's a vintner. He's also a musician and a triathlete. On top of all of that, he's a super chill guy who's so much fun to be with, and we're glad to have him on our show. Hi, Dane.
Hi, and thank you so much for coming back. It's fun to see you again.
It's good to connect again, right?
Yeah.
I know. It's like we knew you when you knew us when. A lot has happened
right?
since then,
A lot has happened. Don't leave poet off there. I'm also.
Oh, you're a poet.
I'm a budding poet. I try, but everything else is more important. But that's the one that feeds the soul. Right?
Of course. And how do you find time to do all of this?
You got to fit it in when you can, right? The workouts are early and the nights are late, so you do what you have to do.
So tell me, what time are you up to start your day?
Well, so my wife Angela is a real marathoner, and I try to keep up to her, and so we both get up at 4 a.m. in order to run. And we run all. Actually, the best thing about it is you run all over the valley, and I'm intimately familiar with all of the microclimates of Livermore Valley because at 4 a.m. there's no distraction, and I can feel the temperature changes, and I know exactly what side of the valley is the coolest. And so anyway, we get up early, and our workout's done before the coffee shop opens.
And does having that knowledge help you pick vineyards that you want to work with?
It really does. Actually, when I moved to Livermore in 2004, I was making Chardonnay out of 5 different appellations. Today, and if you asked me back then if I could make Chardonnay out of Livermore, I would have laughed at you. I thought it was too hot. I had this myopic vision of Livermore Valley. I discovered that you can make Chardonnay out of Livermore. Today, we're only making Livermore Valley Chardonnay. It's in the west end of the valley, and I'll tell you, at 4 a.m. when I'm running through the valley and I'm coming down South Livermore Avenue, and we drop into the west end where Kaltoff Commons is, and there's some hills and these little valleys, it drops by 5, 8, sometimes 10 degrees. That's the coolest end of the valley, and that's where we make Chardonnay out.
That's where your happy grapes are.
You got it, yeah.
Nice.
So it does help.
Yeah. So tell us about the winery. You're busy out here. You're making how many varieties?
Oh gosh, we're probably at about 16 different wines. When I left the peninsula, we were doing just under 2,000 cases, and we've more than doubled. So we're about 5,000 cases. When we got here, we weren't making any wines from Livermore Valley. I came here for the tasting room. It was a way to keep my wife close to her work, which is in Silicon Valley, and for me to expand production and have a tasting room. What I discovered was the quality and the value in Livermore Valley, and today we're 95% local fruit. So we're doing a lot of different wines, and we're again when you first interviewed me. I'm not going to say how many years ago, we were just to the gills. We were packed with production. We've doubled and almost tripled production, and now again we're packed. So maybe there's a next step. I don't know.
I remember from that shoot that you were climbing up into the stacks in the basement. There was barely any room between the top of the barrels and the roof of the basement. And you were, squeezing through there to get samples.
Yeah. If you recall, in that basement, I had marked so it was pyramid stacked. Today, I'm not pyramid stacked. Everything's done with a forklift on racks, right? And people come in, other winemakers come to my barrel room and they look at it and it's stacked, to the gills, and they say, "Oh my God, this is too tight." And I think, this is heaven. I look at it and there's 250 barrels in there, and I can be at any barrel within an hour with my forklift. Whereas at the old place, they were pyramid stacked, so barrel on barrel, and we had a mark on the rack, on the barrel rack on the ground, because you had to line it up just right, because the fourth layer of barrels would crest in between the floor joists.
Wow. And we should tell our listeners that we are actually here on site with you at the winery in the tasting room, hence the phone noise you just heard. But you're in the middle of the 2018 harvest right now, and production. You've got grapes coming in this morning.
Yeah, thanks for sparing the time.
Yeah.
Oh, you bet. Anything
Yeah,
you
so
guys.
tell us what you've got coming in.
So yesterday morning, I was talking to somebody, and they said, "How far along are you?" Some of the local wineries are just starting to pick. I thought we're going to do about 100 tons, and I said, I think we're about 30%. We maybe done 30 tons. Jack, my assistant winemaker, turned to me and he said, "We've done 57 tons." So we're more than halfway there. It's been a really spectacular harvest. I think 2018 is going to be off the charts good.
Really?
Yeah. We've got a bunch of stuff fermenting. We've picked our Zin. All of our whites are in. And the vintage, knock on wood, that's the sound of me knocking on wood, is going to be spectacular.
Why? What are you liking about it?
So we're always looking for the right numbers. We're always looking for the right pH and acid and Brix balance, right? Because you can't take sort of muddled colors and paint a great painting. You're looking for this clarity of the things that you start with, right? So we're looking for those good numbers, but then the other things that have to come along are the flavors and the development, and the growing season has to allow you to get all the way to the end and still have those clean colors, those perfect colors that you can then paint a great picture with. This vintage, I'm going to do it again, knock on wood, because we're only halfway there, appears to me to be one of the best in at least a decade. Wow. So we didn't have any real high heat spikes this summer. We had one really warm week, but it just wasn't that hot, and it's been a nice long, we had an early bud break, a nice long growing season. I think it's going to be fabulous.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. Speaking of wine, why don't we taste something? What do you have?
Let's do that. Okay, so I've got this one that looks a little strange, but I'm going to make you taste it anyway.
All right.
It's cloudy. It's somewhat opaque. It's going to end up being a white wine. This is our Sauvignon Blanc that has finished fermentation. It's in tank and it's just settling, so it's brand new. It's
this
only
is
about
the 2018.
This is the
vintage.
2018 Sauvignon Blanc, and it's only about 3 weeks old.
Oh wow!
So you can't see this, but it's cloudy. It almost looks like a glass of maybe grapefruit juice, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It looks like grapefruit juice.
That's really good.
It's got just a lovely aroma. It's still got a little bit of yeastiness to it, and that's because all those yeast are in suspension and they're still settling to the bottom of the tank. It's got a real bright, crisp presentation on the palate.
A lot of citrus, like lemon citrus, and also I get pineapple and some tropical fruit.
Yeah.
Really delicious.
So obviously we're not going to sell it like
Right.
this. This is going to clean up. It'll be clear when we sell it.
It's hard to believe that it's going to go from this kind of hazy, pale yellow, very, very pale yellow liquid to a crystal clear pale yellow.
Yeah.
This is a great wine.
Yeah, it will be.
It's good right
going to be
now.
fantastic.
It's, golly, it's delicious.
I have always liked your Sauvignon Blanc, and you get that, really tart, kind of juicy feeling in your mouth,
But no bitter bite.
Yeah.
Really nice.
Yeah.
We were, when we moved here, we were making Sauvignon Blanc since like 1982 out of Paso Robles, and I thought, the Livermore Valley was one place I wanted to try. One of the varietals I wanted to try out of Livermore was a Sauvignon Blanc. I tasted the Algren Vineyards Semillon and Sauvignon Blanc, and I knew that there was some good stuff over here. So I gave that a try, and holy cow, I was blown away. I made it side by side with Paso Robles for 3 years, and then I thought, why am I driving all the way to Paso Robles?
Right.
I was getting the local stuff, which was cost competitive, if not a little bit less expensive for the grapes. It was every bit as good, if not a little bit better, in my opinion. And I didn't have to truck up and down the state, in September. So, so that was the first wine that opened my eyes to the quality in Livermore Valley. And this is, I think this is our 33rd vintage or something like that of Sauvignon Blanc, and it's our 11th or so out of Livermore Valley.
I love it.
So some of our listeners may not know much about Livermore Valley and compared to Napa and Sonoma, which they, of course, are familiar with. So tell us just a little bit about Livermore and what makes it so special and why people need to know it and come visit you.
So Livermore Valley is this hidden gem in the Bay Area with a long history and track record. The Wentys and Concannons have been making wine here for 135 years. And if you trace all of the Chardonnay vines in California, 80% of them come from the Wente clone. So the history is undeniable. The reason I don't know why it's a hidden gem, but I can tell you why it's a gem. The valley is only about 6 miles across, and the Altamont Pass is on its eastern border, which your listeners may know is covered with windmills. The reason that's one of the best power generating windmill sections in the state is because the wind comes through the Golden Gate over the Berkeley Hills and whips through our valley in the afternoon. Now,
We have experienced that wind on several TV shoots.
Oh, really? Yeah, I bet. It's consistent.
Not great for the hair, Dane.
I bet. Yeah, and well,
But good for grapes.
Yeah, what it does for the wine region is it creates a diurnal shift. It creates this nighttime cooling, which the grapes need. They want the heat. They want the nice soils and plenty of water, but they need it to rest. Like everybody, we need to sleep at night. We need to rest.
Kind of like athletes, you need to recover, right?
It's recovery time, exactly. And so at night we get that diurnal shift. We get the wind cools off the valley, and it's one of the things about Livermore Valley is that as a community they have held off the tide of construction of urbanism with agriculture. And so they saw this push from the Bay Area to try to develop, and they established an urban growth boundary and a plan in the 90s that really dedicated the whole South Valley to agriculture and the wine industry.
Smart.
It worked. And so now you've got a plethora of wineries. We're up to almost 60, and you've got a lot of vineyards that have been protected.
So tell me, it's important to you to give back to Livermore, right? You've got a couple of things going on. I want to say like a Thirsty Thursday.
Yeah.
And are you still doing the fill up your bottle thing?
We are. Yeah. So personally, I have been thinking and considering sustainability for a long time, and that comes out in different ways. The fill up your bottle is something that came from my experience in Bordeaux, living in Bordeaux when I was going to school and studying enology. And it's so European to take your bottles down to the local winery and fill them up, right? And it makes perfect sense because recycling is good, but reusing is better. So in the 2008 crash, I thought, okay, my job is no longer to make the world's best wine, but to rather still be standing when the dust settles. I still need to be here if I'm going to make the world's best wine, right?
I guess it worked.
I got to
You're still
survive.
here.
Yeah, I'm still here. So I pulled it out. I dusted it off, that idea, and I said, okay, well, let's try this. And I thought we'd do it once or twice a year. It was such a hit. We've done it every month since January 2009, almost 10 years, and we've saved 45,000 bottles from being recycled or thrown away.
So people bring in their bottle.
They bring in their bottle, and we fill it up with that month's blend. It's just the topping wine, or stuff that we're not using for the regular vineyard designate. It all gets blended together, and it changes every month. And for $10, you take home a great table wine.
$10.
Yeah, and hopefully next month you bring it back and fill it up again.
And for another $10.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, and that's one thing I think you're doing is helping to make wine more fun, more approachable. And I think
I hope so.
people like to be involved in some way. And, I'd love to bring my bottles.
Yeah.
And if I lived close enough,
You guys are invited.
Fill her up. And then you also do, is it charity nights on Thursday?
We do. Every Thursday we do a tasting. We're open late until 8 o'clock. And it's a different charity every week. And all of our tasting fees, a portion of our proceeds go towards that charity, and then they invite vendors, and they sell, and they, you can do some holiday shopping on those Thursday nights, and a portion of those proceeds go to the charities. Last year, our portion of that donation ended up being over $15,000 for local charities every Thursday night. Yeah.
So, that's part of being in a community is giving back to it. So I feel like in Livermore, you've really established yourself as a successful business and winery, but also as a partner in the community who cares, which is so cool, right?
I hope so.
And you've also done another cool project with 2 neighboring wineries. You all kind of made a blend together. Tell me about that. So
the community of winemakers is perhaps not totally unique, but it's very valuable, and it's important to all of us. I think the wine industry sort of engenders cooperation and that kind of thing, and they're really pretty cool people. Livermore Valley is no exception. I'm real tight friends with a lot of the winemakers in the valley. At one of our lunches, we were sitting around saying, why don't we work on a blend together? And so the Steves of Three Steves Winery and Rhonda of Wood Family Vineyards and I put some whites together, and we did some blending experiments, which was terrible, tough work. And we came up with a Viognier Chardonnay Pinot Blanc blend that we called Vines Intertwined. And I think we're completely sold out. But it was a really fun project.
I was lucky enough to taste some of it, and it was pretty darn tasty. But before we move on, speaking of wine again, I think we're a little thirsty. What else do you have for us to try?
So after talking about the Chardonnay, I have to pour you some of the Chardonnay. Let me this real quick.
Oh, he's getting the spit and dump bucket. Now we're set.
So this is our Chardonnay that comes from that Chandler vineyard on the west end of the valley that I'm super, super proud of. The vineyard also, this vineyard is split by another winery and myself. We choose when to harvest and manage the vineyard throughout the year. It is on the west end and very close to the hills up against the bay, and so it's got a little bit of fog that kind of licks over the hills there in the mornings, and I'm super proud of it.
As well you should be. It's really good.
It's pretty good.
Golly, that's nice.
Now those grapes also
fruit.
go into our sparkling wine.
Oh yeah,
which
Bubbles.
is so in 2008, one of my business partners who had been making bubbly in his garage for 20 years, he's got the expertise, and I said, let's do a bubbly. We did one out of Dry Creek. 4 years later in 2012, we tasted it, and it just turned out unbelievable. And I said, okay, we got to do another one. We got to do it out of local fruit, and it's the Chandler Vineyard, so it's from those same grapes.
So good. Yeah.
And so in even years, I pick 1 ton of sparkling, but at a much lower Brix. It's got to be really underripe. When you taste the juice.
So that means lower sugar.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you taste the juice, when we're making like this Chardonnay that's in your glass, it's you taste the juice right out of the vineyard, and it's sweet, and it tastes like just this voluptuous mouthful of yummy.
Yeah.
When we pick it for sparkling, we pick it a month prior to that, and you put it in your mouth, and it's just this acidic, you can't even hardly swallow it. It's so underripe. But that makes great bubbly, sparkling.
Fascinating how that's going to turn into something really great in the bottle, right?
Yeah.
This Chardonnay is
I like your
delicious.
description, a mouthful of yummy. Yeah, borrow that.
So you are clearly an artist, like in the way you speak, your passion. So I want to know, would you tell us about like your music? So this is another avenue. So one of the ways that you express your art is obviously in the bottle, in your wines, but you got it just oozing out of you. So you make a lot of music too. So tell us about that.
I try.
Yeah.
So I learned guitar in college, and I learned 3 chords, and I kind of plateaued at about 6 months, and I played those 3 chords for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then I finally realized that I also struggle with poetry, and I work on that all the time. And I finally got serious, and I said, I really want to learn how to play guitar. And I joined a group, and it's been upward since then. We play here at the winery periodically. We just did a fundraiser for Taste Our Terroir, where Mark Claren, one of the best musicians in the valley, and I shared a stage.
Is he really?
Yeah.
He is the winemaker at another local winery called McGrail Family Vineyards.
And he's a fabulous musician. He's a great winemaker, and he's a fabulous musician.
What does he play?
He plays guitar.
Okay.
He's got a bit of a funk to his guitar, and he's a great singer. Oh my God, I strive to be like Mark Claren.
So what kind of music are you doing?
Classic rock, indie rock. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool.
And you play guitar?
I play guitar. See that? Those are my 3 daughters. I'm shaking my
these metal
necklace.
guitar picks that are made with his daughter's names
That's
on it. So
sweet.
cool.
Yeah.
So does your poetry end up working as song lyrics?
Yes, actually, half my written songs have come out poetry, and actually, like really old poetry, stuff that I wrote, 10, 15, 20 years ago, is being reborn as a song. Nothing gold can stay. Nothing gold can stay. Nothing gold can stay. Nothing gold can ever stay. And way gave way today, and crescent shot to glance. And though the ladders stay, there still remained a chance. Nothing gold can stay. Nothing gold can stay. Nothing gold can stay. Nothing gold can ever stay. I'm probably the worst musician in my band, but they can't kick me out of the band because I've got the venue. So we play here.
You're set.
Yeah, in high school, if you had the PA, you always had a gig, right? Yeah. Well, I've got the venue, so we play here periodically. We're playing for our next wine club release, November 16th.
Fun.
So
it must be a nice release for you too, right? You're a busy guy there's a lot of balls in the air at all times when you're running a winery and a family.
For sure.
So just to be able to get together with friends and make music, what a lovely thing.
It's spectacular. Even when I feel a little stressed and I feel like I'm overworked and I don't have time for practice, as soon as I get to practice and we rock out for 2 hours and I come out of there rejuvenated and you got to listen to your soul, and making music is part of what I do.
Yeah. Does your band have a name?
Icelandic Underbelly.
Okay, you got to explain that one.
I almost guessed that.
For those in the know, it's Ice Belly. So you can call us Ice Belly. I have no idea where it came from. We were getting ready to play a gig and we didn't have a name. And so I threw out some crazy names, Icelandic being one of them, because we're not Icelandic, and I was like, oh, they'll never choose this one, and they did.
How funny.
So there you go.
Ice belly.
Yeah, Ice Belly for those in the know.
Love that.
I've heard of having fire in the belly, but ice in the belly.
Yeah, it's much more rock and roll.
What about some more wine in the belly?
Yeah, okay.
Now, which wine is your favorite to make?
So my favorite wine overall is, of course, the one that's named after my wife, Angela. It's Angela's Cuvée, and it's a dry rosé. I'm completely sold out, so we can't taste it today. But So you have to take my word for it.
Yes.
But one of my favorites that I'm super proud of, it's called GPS. And
that's not global positioning system, is it?
well, it's a play on that, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
So I wanted to make a wine that really said Livermore Valley, that is a wine of place. And the Livermore Valley is not dissimilar to the Rhone Valley. We grow great Syrah, and the Rhone blends do really well here. So I knew I wanted to sort of pattern it after that. The classic Rhone blend is a GSM, Grenache Syrah Mourvèdre, and that says Rhone Valley. So because Livermore Valley has a long history of Petite Syrah, and I think Concannon was the first one to put on the label in '62. So there's a history there. So I wanted to include that. I didn't have any Mourvèdre, so I replaced the Mourvèdre with Petite Syrah. So actually, it should be SPG is the order. It's 80% Syrah, 16% Petite Syrah, and then 4% Grenache.
But
Did that add up to 100%? Yeah. So then I put my marketing hat on. I said, well, this is my location wine. And I moved the letters around, and I came up with GPS.
I love it.
It's great.
So that's what it is.
Brilliant.
It's a
fun.
really good wine. It's got a
Thank
nice
you.
little berry.
Yeah, it's
flavor.
really fruity and easy to drink.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, very juicy.
I think really the point is, do you want to take another sip?
Yeah,
You can look at all the ratings
I just
and what
did.
everyone else. Yeah, there you go.
I'm going in for another.
Done.
No, this is really.
You can throw everyone else's opinion out the window and all the ratings, and really what matters is, do you want to take another sip?
Yeah, and that's why we want to make wine fun, more approachable, because if you just sit and drink this, whether you're eating or with some friends or just kicking back on a Thursday night.
Yeah, must have a really good palate, because you really have always gotten the taste. You've nailed it on your wines, even when you were all those years ago when you were just a young guy, following in your father's footsteps. You get this. You know how to do this.
Bless you for saying that. I hope that I do. Well, as a winemaker, you really got to make what you like, because if it doesn't sell, you got to drink it all. So you don't want to make something that you can't really make it for other people. So hopefully there's enough people out there who have my palate that are going to like the wines that I make.
So also we wanted to ask you about your athletics. I mean, you really get after it. So a triathlete, yeah?
Yeah.
So tell us about what your race history and all that kind of stuff.
So I've always been a runner. I've always enjoyed running. I did, high school athletics and such, and carried on running through my adulthood. When I met my wife Angela, she said, let's try a triathlon. And we were off to the races, so to speak. So she's a real marathoner. So most of my athletics are just trying to keep up to her. I have taken to the triathlons, and she's still running marathons. But I love triathlons, and it keeps you going.
So cool. And the longest you've done, is that Olympic?
Half Ironman.
Half Ironman.
Yeah, I've done the Santa Cruz Half Ironman 3-4 times, and it's a good event.
Yeah, that's a commitment in itself. Training for a half Ironman is.
It really is. Yeah.
And you've got 3 girls.
3 wonderful, exceptional daughters.
Aw,
Yeah.
you are seriously outnumbered in your house.
I know, right?
What is that like to be surrounded by
I need to learn how to fish, because I heard that an aluminum boat is a good estrogen insulator. So that's why people fish. They go out in the middle of a lake, and I'm so blessed to have 3 daughters. And
Do you think they'd want to follow in your footsteps and go into wine?
I don't know. I didn't get any pressure from my dad. I'm going to play the same game, and if somebody wants to, then Stella, my oldest, my 14-year-old, is the most interested. She smells every wine that I drink. Every glass of wine I have, she'll smell it and tell me what she smells. So she's kind of taken a liking to it. I think that's pretty cool.
That's very cool. And age appropriate, right?
Yeah. It's her life, and so if we end up with a winemaker, that's great.
We should explain. Dane's dad made wine starting in
1975.
Okay.
Yeah, 76 was the first professional harvest. He made 15 gallons of Chenin Blanc in 75.
Chenin Blanc.
Yeah.
Back then, nice.
And he did it as a side project, right? It wasn't his main gig, or?
No, it was. He quit his job and dug a hole into the house and started making wine.
Your mother must have thought he was insane.
If I tell you about the Chenin Blanc, you'll think he was insane too. So in '75, he was thinking about doing this, and he made 15 gallons of Chenin Blanc. It was completely undrinkable.
Oh.
My uncle called it Urina Blanca. That's the only experience he had.
I gotta keep going.
And in '76, he quit. He said, "I'm going to quit my job." My mom said, "Okay, whatever." And he dug a hole into the house and started making wine.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Instead of running for, like, oops, not going to try that. Like,
Yeah, right?
That big fat fail, he's like, I'm in.
So what was the next wine he made?
So in '76, he made. I know he made Cab Chard and Zin.
Okay.
Believe it or not, when we moved here, I found a case of 1976 Chardonnay, Livermore Valley, Page Mill Winery, that my dad had made.
Are you serious?
And I pulled it out and I called him and I said, "You didn't tell me I'm returning to my roots." And he said, "Oh yeah, I made that one vintage and it convinced me I should never make Livermore Valley wine again." And I'm here to tell you that we tasted it in about 2010. That's when I discovered it and opened it up. I was getting ready to throw it out, and I said, I should taste a bottle just for fun. And I was with a group of friends. 7 of the bottles out of that case were unbelievable. They were exceptional. They were so delicious. And then the other 5 tasted like something had died in them. But,
Well, but what a nice surprise.
yeah.
So
It was-
Livermore
it
Valley
was
wines can
fabulous.
age.
Yeah, and the Chardonnay.
Yeah, Chardonnay.
Amazing.
Well, a lot of
That's
people
very
don't
rare.
think Chardonnay can age, and it really can. I mean, look
Absolutely.
at white Burgundies. For those of you who are fans of white Burgundies, but it's been my experience. California Chardonnay, when it's made well, can age 20 years. Or more.
Absolutely. Yeah, you bet.
Well, we're going to shift gears a little bit here and put you on the spot.
Uh-oh.
Should we do our, yeah.
Okay.
And so we've got a series of questions we're just going to throw out. You just say the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
So,
You ready?
47. Blue. Did you guys see the Monty Python where he wears to the bridge and he's like, "What's your name?" "Sir Galahad." "What's your quest?" "The Holy Grail." "What's your favorite color?" "Blue." "No, red." And he goes into the... Anyway, look it up. It's hilarious. Okay.
I love a Monty Python reference.
I hope I don't get thrown into the chasm. Okay, go ahead.
All right. Corkscrew or screw cap?
Screw cap.
Red, white, or
All
pink?
the way. Oh, pink.
Favorite varietal?
Petite.
Petite Syrah.
Yes.
Least favorite varietal?
I don't think I have one.
Oh, come on.
No, really.
All right.
Okay. The best wine you've ever had?
That 1976 Chardonnay that my dad made, it was unbelievable.
That's sweet.
And the biggest surprise.
Nice.
All right, so I'm going to play devil's advocate. Worst wine you've ever had?
There's been a bunch of them. Half of them I made.
I was going to ask you that.
Those don't ever end up, those go out into the vineyard or something like that. But,
Was there one big surprise you're like, oh, this is going to be great, and oops, it wasn't?
yeah, well, each barrel is so unique. It's just its own little world, you know? And so once in a while you get one that just didn't work.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just surprises you.
What's the most expensive wine you've ever had?
I had the wonderful opportunity to travel France with my brother and his wife, who could afford to buy whatever they wanted, and we
I love
tasted.
people like that.
Yeah, I know. And so we drank some exceptional wines, exceptional old wines, and the '76 Echem was to die for.
So he's talking about Chateau de Cam, which is a dessert wine, a sweet wine made in the Bordeaux region, a blend of Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon. I've only had it once in my life.
Really?
Yeah.
When I was in Bordeaux, my host father was best friends with the cellar master there, and so I got to barrel taste.
Lucky you.
Yeah, it was pretty good. But it's like liquid gold. I mean, it's really incredible stuff.
Yeah, nice.
All right, what do you think? Ice cubes in wine, yes or no?
Absolutely. If you need them, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
What
What
the
about
heck?
stems or no stems on a wine glass?
Whatever wine glass you've got, that's the one that works.
That's the
Plastic.
That's
Yeah.
the vessel. That's the,
Yeah, right.
okay.
Yeah, right.
Plastic tumbler.
You bet. Yeah.
Dixie cup.
Sure, solo. Yeah, red solo cup.
Favorite place to drink wine?
I was just thinking about that. It's got to be listening to music in the park.
Oh, nice.
We've got a great Tuesday Tunes downtown. that's the best place.
Nice. What's your favorite wine destination outside of Livermore Valley?
Burgundy.
Why?
It plays to my heartstrings more than any other region. The tradition, the terroir. I've got friends in Burgundy. It's where I fell in love with wine, and when I went to college, it'll surprise you to know I much preferred beer. And when I studied in Bordeaux, lived in France, that's where I fell in love with wine.
Nice. Okay.
Do you have a go-to wine? Like,
At the Chardonnay that we just had.
yeah, I
That's the
understand why.
one.
That was good.
And what do you drink when you're not drinking wine?
Beer. Takes a lot of beer to make good wine.
That's what they say.
If you weren't making wine, what would you be doing now?
Probably trying to sing and write poetry and entertain people with that. Right now, I'm entertaining with wine. It would a different kind of entertainment. I
Absolutely. But it brings a smile to people's faces either way. Right?
Exactly, and it's a connection. It's we're sharing the same experience, and that's what appeals to me.
Nice.
Best wine you've ever made?
Oh, that's a hard one.
It's like asking you to name your favorite child.
I know. Even if I have one, you don't want to say it out loud, right? You don't want to hurt anyone else's feelings.
Exactly.
Best wine I've ever made. The 09 GPS was exceptional. The 99 Pinot out of Biennacido still sticks in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And a 95 Merlot that we did out of Napa, out of O'Shaughnessy Vineyard. I don't know if you guys remember that. Those ones,
Okay.
yeah, were great.
Any lessons learned that you'd tell your younger self?
Oh my gosh, so many. How long have we got?
This is supposed to be rapid fire.
Oh, okay. What lessons? Listen. Because the more we listen, we were given 2 ears and 1 mouth, because you're supposed to listen twice as much as you talk.
Oh, I love that. Really
And
nice.
what are you going to be drinking tonight or after this interview?
Bubbly. Well, I'll open this. Page Mill 2012.
All right.
Well, thank you. What a
yeah,
pleasure
I
to
know.
visit again.
It's wonderful
with
to
you,
have you.
Dane.
Yeah, thanks. It brings back, it's like good old times.
Agreed.
But we've all, we've been doing some exciting things, and I think, we're going to do more exciting things.
So yeah, and we want to make sure our listeners know, come on out to Livermore Valley and stop by Page Mill Winery. It's a beautiful destination, gorgeous vineyards all around, and just the nicest people you'll ever want to meet.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for coming out and visiting.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers, Dane.
Cheers.
Well, that was so much fun visiting with Dane. He's such a great guy.
He is. He hasn't changed over the years. And it was just, great catching up with him and seeing how far he's come from his Page Mill days. And I'm so excited that he's making wine from Livermore Valley grapes and is so excited about doing it.
Right. He's part of a new generation of Livermore Valley winemakers, and he's really doing a tremendous job. Lots to celebrate there.
Absolutely. So y'all definitely go see him, seek his wines out. You will be very, very pleasantly happy with them.
Yeah, they're delicious. Mm-hmm. So interviewing winemakers like Dane is something we want to continue doing on this show. When we can go on little field trips, Mario and I will go out in the field and interview them right at the winery. Mm-hmm. But when we can't, we'll ask them into our studios and that way introduce them to you.
Right. So we want to make our wine friends your wine friends, right?
Yeah. So that's going to do it for this edition of Sip Sip Hooray. Thanks for listening.
And we want to connect with you. So follow us on social media. We're on Instagram and Facebook at Sip Sip Hooray Podcast, and on Twitter, Sip Sip Hooray, the number 1.
And don't forget our webpage, sipsiphoooraypodcast.com, where you can go and record a question for us to answer.
And we look forward to having you join us for our next podcast.
Today, we're going to leave you with a little bit more of Dane's music. Thanks again for listening, and Sip Sip Hooray.
Cheers.
Clouds upon your lid, let through the sun as if to say, keep the sun half hid, or to protect your golden day. Not Nothing gold can stay. Nothing gold can stay. Nothing gold can stay. Nothing gold can ever stay. And might this tender flower, when time may call us old, exhibit staying power and guard its hue of gold. Nothing gold can stay. Nothing gold can stay. Nothing gold can stay. Nothing gold can ever stay.